Dating blind spots created by the queen wound. You are probably brilliant in every other area of life except for in romantic relationship. And listen, this is not a bad thing that you should judge yourself for, and this is not something to shame yourself for. This is the reality for a lot of high achieving women and successful women. That doesn't mean all across the board, but the truth is you've done well in different areas of life, and in this one category, it has been a challenge, and I want to share with you what are some of the blind spots. So first, let me talk to you about the queen wound. What is the queen wound exactly? The queen wound is a concept that I developed, right, to help high achieving women understand what is going on with why they're having difficulty entering a healthy, loving relationship that leads to marriage, right? The queen wound is an identity fracture, if you will, right? And that fracture is a belief, is first of all, is caused, right, from childhood and in a relationship that you were in. So there's three origins of how it came about, and I'll discuss that in a future video. So it's an identity fracture, right? But what happens is that with that identity fracture, what ended up happening is that it created a belief in you that says this: in order for me to be loved, I need to be less. Let me say that again. The queen wound, right, means that you believe deep down or on a subconscious level, you may not be aware of this, in order for me to be loved, I need to be less. This is the queen wound, and it shows up in 4 ways. And I talked about that in previous videos. So if you look for any video that you see where it says sync, save, silence, and shield, those are the 4 ways that it shows up in your romantic relationship. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the queen wound holistically, right? And some of the blind spots that you might be missing. So the biggest issue with the queen wound is that it distorts reality. This is, if there was one problematic issue, right, is that when you have the queen wound, it quite literally distorts your reality. What is real and what is fake, you cannot tell the difference. It's difficult to tell the difference. Let me give you one little example, right? There's 2 types of pool. A pool, the dating pool that's contaminated. Men who are emotionally unavailable, men who they don't want to settle down, they're playing games, all the ones you've probably dated before. The ones who they check all the boxes except for consistency and except for wanting to date multiple women, right? Like, even when they do check the boxes, some of them have issues. So that's a contaminated pool, right? And a lot of people are swimming in that pool and dating in that pool. What the queen wound does that's so problematic is it tells you that that is the only pool available. And you hear it on this app, you hear it on social media, you hear it all over the place, where there's a belief that all men are this, or all men are that, or there's only contaminated pool. That's the biggest distortion of the queen wound, right? Here's what I want you to know. The blind spot for this particular, one of the blind spots for this is you need to begin to understand that if I believe that deep down in my heart, and you have to ask yourself, this is not something that you have to, share publicly, right? Go within your heart and you have to ask yourself, do I really believe that love, that a really genuine, kind man who loves me unconditionally is available for me? Now, before you answer, I already know the answer to that. I already know the answer to that. And you're going to be like, Kuna, how do you? I already know the answer to that is that you don't really believe it. You will say you believe it, right? Some of you outright will say, nope, I don't believe it. They don't exist, right? And so that distortion is clear. You don't even believe that the clean water pool that I talk about, you don't believe it, right? Because on the other side of town, there's a clean water pool where all the emotionally available men are, emotionally intelligent men are there, chilling, lounging, swimming. All the men who are ready to meet and marry their wives are there. Men who vet for a year and then they put a ring on it, an engagement ring on your finger, because they are intentional about creating their family, marrying their wives before getting them pregnant. All those men are swimming across town. They're in another side of town, swimming, enjoying themselves in water, like, because they have the money, they have what they need. They're chilling. They're in the gym. They got themselves together. They read the books. They've done healing work. They're there. The distortion for some women, right, with the queen wound is this. That sounds good. I don't believe it's there. That's one segment of the women that I work with, right? Like, and some of you, like, I don't even believe that they're, okay, that sounds like a fantasy. The other part, right, is that you believe that they are there, but you don't believe that they will like you, that they will want you. That, if you feel that way in your heart and you don't say that out loud, that is an indication that you're dealing with the queen wound. Is, first of all, I don't believe that other pool exists. That's one way of it. That other pool exists, but is not for me. Women like me don't get men like that, right? And so that happens quietly, right? And for each woman, right, every woman, right, there's about 3 blind spots that this creates when you're dating. Every woman is different, which is why I created the Queen Wound Audit, right? The Queen Wound Audit is a 60-minute session where we go through what are the 4 ways in which you are expressing this queen wound, right? And I talked about it in different videos. So you can identify what it is. You save, sync, silence, or you shield, right? So you can identify your primary wound, right? And there's also secondary wound. So when we do the assessment, you'll identify your primary wound and the secondary wound, which is how does this behavior shows up in your relationship, right? But that's not the most important part, because you'll be able to identify how it shows up, especially just based on what I'm saying right now. For me, the biggest challenge, especially doing this work for so many years, is the blind spots that keeps you perpetually dating the wrong man and having the same results. Every woman has their own personal, this is why this is a personalized session, right? Because each of us are different. I was saying in another video how I had the shield wound, right? The shield, the queen wound, and then I was expressing behaviorally the shield, which is like, get away from me, I have a wall up, I don't have time, you're lying, you're not, like I had that, like the wall one, right? Which is called the shield wound, right? How my blind spots with the shield wound is not the same as another woman who has that shield wound and has her own 3 blind spots. Because how I'm going to express that is unique to my experiences, unique to my history, unique to what I've been through. So I need my own assessment, my own audit to show me what my blind spots is. So that's what the invitation is for each of you. Once you identify, yes, Queenette, yes, I'm the one that sinks and shrinks and I downplay myself. I'm the one who saves. I love men who are projects. Like if he's a project, I will date him, right? Or the silence one, the one that's silent. You tend to manage. You tend to like manage the emotional chemistry, the emotional environment of your relationship. So you walk on eggshells and like every woman can probably identify her primary one. I'll also talk to you about where it originated from. But the most important part about this audit, right? If you only just got this, right? It's 60 minutes of the most important work you'll do when it comes to romantic relationship is identify your own personal blind spots. I quite literally almost sabotaged. I've been married for 20 years. What could have been like I'm married now. So I'm like, what could have been? It is 20 years, right? But I almost walked away from Mr. Right because of the very thing that I'm talking to you about right now, which is the wounds that we cannot see. And again, each of us, our blind spots are different because we're different people. We have different histories, different backgrounds and stuff like that. And so what I'm going to do in that session is identify the 3 places where you need to pay close attention to, because this is where you sabotage. And sabotage is meaning in different ways, like different ways you've dated the wrong man, different ways in which you get in the way of meeting and marrying the right man. Okay? I hope that makes sense. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.